Welcome to the very first episode of the Game Plan Coaching Podcast. Today's guest is someone who's been coaching for around 20 years, mostly with young people, and still on the grass every week with an under-16s football team. He's coached in a professional club, spent 14 years at the FA, and now works with UK Coaching, supporting coaches across a wide range of sports. Martin Dighton brings a rare mix of experience, humility, and practical wisdom. In this episode, he shares stories about helping young players that they belong, why recording yourself coaching is a game changer, and sometimes the best thing a coach can do is stop. Let's get into it. Here's Martin Dighton. Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of the Game Plan Coaching Podcast. I'm delighted to be joined by a brilliant guest, a good friend and a coaching colleague, Mr. Martin Dighton.
Hi, Tom. Delighted and very privileged to be the first. I'm not sure that's ever happened before, so thank you.
Just in terms of the format of our podcast and our discussion today, there's three key elements. We're going to kick off and find out a bit more about Martin and his background and his journey through coaching. I'm going to invite Martin to put something into the game plan and then finish with some game-changing advice that you could maybe pick up and try in your own environment or adapt to your coaching context. So, Martin, to kick us off, would you tell us a bit about yourself and your background?
Sure. A little bit of background. So I live down the South Coast and I was one of the local football kids. I played football all the time, every opportunity. Wasn't really in multi-sport, as we know is probably advisable now. And that was all through primary school. I was playing at the local professional football club in what was called a centre of excellence then, academy structure now. And I went to senior school and I moved away just because of where we lived. I went to a senior school that very few of my mates went to. So I go into the senior school and it's known for being really sporty and I can't wait. And I pretty much walked in and the head of PE came up to me and went, "You're a football kid, aren't you? Doesn't work like that here." And I went, "Oh?" Sort of quite scared on my first day at senior school. He said, "No, if you want to play football here, you play every single sport." I even represented my school at snooker in the end, right? It got that wide, okay? So it was rugby, there was cricket, there was golf, like everything going. And the school were amazing at like just throwing me into all sports. So that's where I got my like rounded sport. I finished school not really knowing what to do, but knowing I wanted to do something in sport. Went to college and did basically a level one in anything I could. I remember doing my level one tennis and netball and just trying to get qualifications. I was doing a little bit here and there, helping out with local like little kids teams. My brother, I've got a younger brother, helping out with his team and things like that. And while at college, got involved with the local football club again, but now as a coaching role. I came out of college, planned to take a year out before going to uni to study coaching and landed a job in football in the middle. So never did the uni thing. It still feels weird saying that now because I now work in a world where everybody is degreed up, masters and PhDs and the lot. I never did that. My route's quite different. And coaching at this football club was amazing. I was in the community program and in what had become by then the academy program. So my average day might be a breakfast club with kids just to get them into school. You know, that idea of a draw to get them there on time. So that might start 8 o'clock in the morning till 9. Then maybe something with classes, so covering PE lessons. So I suddenly then have 30 kids, motivation all over the place, at least half the group not even liking football. That was a massive grounding for me. Then I do something at lunchtime, which might be go to another school and set up like a little tournament, like Yard Cup type feel. And then the afternoon, off to do some after school stuff or off to go and even sometimes we go and work in elderly people's homes around like activity, physical activity, movement, things like that. And then into the evening, I'd probably go and then work with what I might call like deliberate kids who were looking to get a little bit better, kids part of a pathway. And that was my average day, like every day. And it was a brilliant grounding of, I'm going to use this cautiously, some out there might not like this, but real coaching, like working with people who had very different and complex motivations. And it taught me really quickly how to read a room and understand how I could connect with different kids. And most of my coaching experience, almost all of it, is with under 18s. That was at the football club. An aim had been to work for the governing body, so the Football Association. That happened when I was about 22, 23. And very similar, actually. Went into a program where I was coaching children, 5 to 11-year-olds. We have a bit of a shared story at this point, don't we?
We do.
Coaching 5 to 11-year-olds every day. Like, what a job. Amazing, right? And being so well supported with some really expert coaches around. So that was the FA, loved that. And then I had, I should probably name check him, a guy called, two really, Tony McCallum and Jack Walton, who started nudging me towards helping coaches. And that led through qualifications, coach education, but also coach development, and to where I am now, which is at UK Coaching, working with every sport going, like reminiscing on my time at senior school, representing the school at snooker and all that sort of stuff. And now I'm playing it out, working with coaches and coaching and sports across everything to do with coaching. So that's probably as best as I could do it.
No, brilliant. And what a variety of experiences you've had. And you're right, we've had a bit of a shared journey, especially with some of our time at the FA and at UK Coaching as well. So how did your experiences taking part in lots of different sports, probably experiencing different types of coaching, shape the way that you then began to coach?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if at senior school I fell in love with other sports. I think I just enjoyed being sporty. And even now, like, I've got a little boy now, like, I got the idea that I want him to be able to pick up any sport and be able to play it well enough that he enjoys it. And I've kind of held on to that. I think I was quite fortunate. I could pick up a cricket bat and I could get away with it. You know, I'd get in the team, I'd be able to hold my own and that sort of stuff. And so that idea of opportunity really stuck early, that no matter which kids are coming to my football sessions, as it became when I first started entering the world of work, I wanted to get them to a point where they felt like they belonged, like the opportunity was for them. I was told really early by a coach at the football club that never be a child's last coach. And that has stuck forever. That's there, that, like, yeah, whatever child came to one of my football sessions early on, I wanted them to love it. And I had a realization quite early on that if they were doing okay at it, they'd probably have more chance at loving it. So yeah, that was a big part of that. So it wasn't necessarily the multi-sport, it was more that, can we find a way for kids to play, and therefore they're more likely to stay, and you never know, they might get quite good at it eventually.
Well, surely the better you make the session, the more they come back in, they'll get better.
Kids vote with their feet. They come if they love it. They don't if they don't. It's really simple. Yeah, maybe, now I'd probably link that into something like self-determination theory and understanding motivation and the idea of being competent at something and belonging within something. At the time, I didn't recognize any of that. It was just, if the kids like it, if they do okay at it, they seem to keep coming. So that was a big part.
Absolutely. To coaches who hadn't necessarily thought about belonging, what would you say to them?
Go and read about it. Go and find some stuff. Like Owen Eastwood's book would be a good place to start, and there's other areas there. But I would, how do you describe belonging? Belonging is a feeling. It's knowing that you're part of something. So if a coach listening now, if I was a kid, I'd be going, like, notice me. Like, notice something about me every week. Like, whether it's the shirt I'm wearing, the boots I've got on, if it's a football context, like how I come in, the facial expressions I've got that day, the first 5 minutes that I'm there, just notice something about me and come and have a chat with me. Just come and talk to me about it. That's I think a big part of belonging, that you feel noticed, you feel part of the environment you're in. The other bit is, as coaches, how we connect people to each other. So again, I think my coaching's probably changed over the years, thinking I needed to be at the front, or singing or dancing, almost a Ronald McDonald entertainer at times. And I've now realised that it's not about me, but actually my role is to help people feel part of something bigger. So running games and activities and tasks where the kids are in charge, where the kids have to work together to solve problems, is all going to foster that feeling of connected to other people and belonging, therefore belonging in the environment. So yeah, hard to do. Some little subtle top tips. So notice them, help them interact and connect. But ultimately it's a feeling. It's a feeling we create over a long time. It's a bit like trust. Belonging takes a long time to build, but can be killed in a moment.
I'll hang on to what you just said there about helping people feel part of something bigger than themselves. That aligns very much with my idea of what belonging is. And I suppose coaches could help their participants establish that in a variety of different ways. It's really context dependent. Yeah,
I know of some amazing community clubs that it's not about winning at the weekend, it's about doing something bigger. So there's a beach clean they'll do once a season, or they'll arrange something for the local community. Like there's bigger stuff than just winning at the weekend. And I think we lose that sometimes, especially in kids' sports.
Okay, Martin, well, look, this teases us up nicely into the next part of our conversation. Very much so, the game plan.
Mhm.
So in every episode, what we want to try and do is build something that we're calling the game plan. It's a shared playbook of stories and ideas and lessons that coaches can draw on. And I'm going to invite every guest to add something unique. So what are you adding?
Oh, it's just a bit aware if it's unique, but there's a method behind it. Maybe a little controversial as well. I'm going to add this, a phone, and until it's playful, it's got Lego people on the back. But this is my own phone, and it has a couple of things on it that I think are incredibly useful for coaches, but underused. The best app on there for a coach is the Dictaphone app, or voice notes, depending on which brand, the brands are available. I came to this too late. I wish I'd come to this earlier, hence why I'm bringing it up today. The bravery, courage to record yourself coaching. Now, initially, I thought that was all bells and whistles, camera up in the corner and proper clip-on mic, and I've done all that, and I've got all that and that sort of stuff. But actually, the easiest, simplest thing to do is to go coaching, and just before you start, hit record on the Dictaphone app, voice notes, whatever it is, and just let it roll. And I never knew what I sounded like coaching until I did it. I had ideas, and as always, and we know there's research out there, some of Chris Cushion's work, is it the 80-20 idea? Coaches get it right about 20% of the time about what they actually do, their behaviors, how they come across, how they sound. And the bit I really like about it being audio only is you don't get the visual with it. It's stripped back. You can hear the tone in the voice. You can hear the way you're coming across. I'd encourage any coach out there coaching, no matter the sport, just stick that on in your pocket. And even if it feels really uncomfortable, just do it for 10 minutes. Just try it. Just have a go. And then listen to it back later, separate, away from the training session, away from practice. Go and listen to it away and just see what you think. We're also in a world now with, again, within this phone, it doesn't take long for me to upload that into some sort of AI and get a transcription written out for me. So if you don't want to listen to it, if that's too horrible to start with, and I get it, I've been there, just read it back. Just read it back and notice. And look, from there, the world's your oyster. You can start analysing the questions you ask. And you open, a close, divergent, convergent. You can start looking at what praise you offer, any affirmations, and it's never ending. You could even analyse how much of the time you spend talking compared to how much time the kids spend talking, which I think would be pretty powerful too. So yeah, I don't know if that's acceptable, but I've kind of gone for it. It's a mobile phone, because it could be, I'm cautious to use this, and you and I have talked about this before, it could be a coach developer in your pocket.
Well, I don't think it's controversial at all. And I'm with you completely. I remember some of the first times I heard and saw myself coaching. It took a lot to try and get over that self-ickiness of hearing my own voice and seeing myself in action and recognizing the fact that I said, okay, every 30 seconds during a coaching session. I agree that as soon as you can kind of get past that and become comfortable with listening to yourself, it can be an incredible tool that holds up some mirrors that you wouldn't necessarily have. So the obvious question already then, so since you've recorded yourself, is there anything that you've noticed that you don't think you would have if you hadn't?
Yeah, crikey. I suppose it depends which detail I go in. I say absolutely a lot. When anybody suggests something, especially with a child, when I'm trying to enter the children's world and understand what's for them and what's not, they'll come up with a suggestion. I'll go, absolutely, let's do it. And it's just my go-to. So I've managed to sort of wind them in a little bit. The other bit was being just overly excited. And I think that probably comes from back in the days of in schools with kids who maybe didn't want to be there, and trying to be not the entertainer, but trying to be the energy. And it was only when I started listening back to myself going, you don't need to do that. There's a time, there's absolutely a time where you might need to ramp up the optimism and the excitement, but there's also a time where you need to wind that right down. And I just noticed how, it feels horrible saying it out loud on a podcast. You don't know who's going to listen back. Too loud at times, too busy, too excitable, and toning it down and trying to get more of a peak and a trough rather than up all the time, trying to recognize when it's time to slow down. And I think that was something I learned from listening back to myself. There weren't any times of just observing, thinking, noticing, considering. It was just on and fully on too much of the time. So they're probably the biggest ones. It taught me to vary the enthusiasm I brought to coaching outwardly. I can still have the enthusiasm inwardly. That's absolutely fine, but because I love it. But outwardly, I just need to peak and trough.
I think there's something that you're saying here that really highlights that openness you have as a coach to be able to recognize the fact that by listening back, you can always find things that helped you improve. and therefore improves the experience for the players that you're coaching. And I'm a big believer that vulnerability and humility is a coaching superpower. To be vulnerable enough to say either I don't know or I could be better. Did that take a dose of you having to think differently or feel uncomfortable with making a change?
Definitely uncomfortable. I remember the first video, like watching it behind the sofa with the volume turned right down, and then gradually becoming more confident with it and opening up. Definitely took a bit of that. I don't know if it took some vulnerability in that I just wanted to get better at coaching. That's all I've ever wanted to do. And if this was a tool that was going to help me, then why not have a go? The other bit that I think really helps is and I wonder if this is for other people out there, I knew I wasn't going to send it to anyone. And everybody's different, right? So some may want to, but this was for me and me only. I've done bits where I've done qualifications, things like that, and I've had to produce evidence. But the weekly coaching bit, when I coached at a college with a bunch of under 18s, I'd do it during the session. On the drive home, I'd put it in the car, just me in the car. Nobody else is going to hear it. So that took away some of the need to be vulnerable. Don't get me wrong, it was uncomfortable, but it was an okay uncomfortable. It wasn't too big a step.
And I think that there's something in that as well, that knowing that you don't necessarily have to share this with anybody means that those reflections that you have are reflections for you, not for the benefit of somebody else. But also the fact that, and I can draw this to my own experiences recording myself, that having clarity in my mind once I'd listened a few times on what I want to improve on really helped me use the recordings to shape how I develop. So from my own experiences in the past, and I still do it from time to time now, I definitely talk too much when I'm making some kind of interaction in the session. I might over-explain a point or use too many words to explain something or repeat myself several times, and the message becomes saturated or slightly lost. So my intention, I remember when I started doing some of this work, was just be more precise and clearer with the language that I used. And just by having a goal like that in the front of your mind probably increases your chances of achieving that goal because you're intentional and it's front and center.
Marianne Davies, I've got in my mind, what you pay attention to is what you can be intentional about. And I remember when I first noticed the overly loud or liveliness I was bringing to coaching, that, it felt uncomfortable. It's like, I really like that. So now I'm paying attention to it, and I started to pay attention. Well, when do I dial it down? And I will always then start to think about, I remember that part of the session, so-and-so did X or this happened. And I started to attach what I was hearing, listening back to what was happening, and my memories were syncing together. So now I've started to be far more intentional about moments in a coaching session when I might dial up or dial down. And over time, that became not just a case of dialing down, but again, back to those peaks and troughs. So when do I go high and when do I go low? But you're right. It was completely around paying attention to something that allowed me to become more intentional. And guess what? Gradually over time, it becomes easier to listen to because things get better.
All right. Well, look, our first contribution to the game plan is a smartphone. So, Martin, thank you.
It's all right. I hope it's useful.
Very much so. And look, I'd love to think, for anybody who's listening to this, how you might use the dictaphone on your smartphone. Is there an opportunity in your next coaching session, even if it's just for a snippet, to record something to give you a different perspective to reflect on? We like to try and end the podcast with something practical and powerful, something that's a game-changing takeaway for the coaches who are listening, that maybe they could pick up and use in their next training session in their own environment or think about for a little bit longer. So Martin, have you got a piece of game-changing advice for coaches that they maybe could apply, adapt, or reflect on in their own coaching?
Yeah, I think so. Stop coaching. Okay. Now by that, I mean, in your next coaching session, just stop for a little bit. And there's a couple of reasons I'm asking you to just stop. Now, I'm using the term coaching in quite a traditional sense, that I'm imagining coaching being we're constantly on, we're giving information, we're asking questions, we're bouncing around, changing practice design. I'm asking coaches to just stop. Maybe pause would be a better word. Just pause for a bit. Because I've noticed in myself, as I've just talked to with the audio recordings, but as I noticed in a lot of other coaches I've worked with over the years, there's this idea, this almost societal pressure that we've got to be coaching, and I'm using the speech marks thing, coaching all the time. That we've got to constantly be giving instructions, asking questions, offering support, advice, guidance, praise, and all the rest of it. But I think when we're on all the time, we miss so much stuff. So I'm encouraging coaches out there to just stop. In your next training session, just take a couple of minutes to just watch and listen. And it's for a couple of reasons. One, it's for our own sanity as coaches. I don't know if we can actually be that effective if we're on that much for that long under that pressure. Secondly, it's about helping our participants, athletes, players, whatever they are in your language, your context. It's only when we truly stop, watch and listen that we can actually truly help. And I've just been amazed myself over the years of when I've done this, and now it's part of my habits now, just what you see that you didn't otherwise, the little nuances, the little, the young child who does something you didn't know they could do, or someone taking a lead that they just wouldn't have done because the environment would have been filled with my own noise. So yeah, I'm encouraging coaches to stop. Goes against the grain, maybe.
Well, when you said stop coaching, I was worried for a second.
It was the first one. I thought it was okay.
No, totally. And again, I completely hear you, like creating the opportunity to step back and out. And I remember maybe our mutual friend and inspiration, Pete Sturgis, saying once on a coaching course that making no intervention at all is an intervention in itself.
Yeah, I remember the FA playing around at the time. I think Ben Bartlett, books are worth reading if anyone's out there, talking about skillful neglect. That time when you don't intervene. I'm not sure about the wording personally, but I'm just asking coaches to just to pause and see what you see. Make some notes. Again, maybe it goes against expectations of parents and club officials and so on, but a coach still on the sideline making some notes tells me a coach is in tune with what's going on. I see that as a huge positive. Right, I'm going to make some notes because I'm going to come back to those. They might be about myself and how I'm feeling, almost like not a think aloud, but a write aloud. Or maybe it's about what's going on in the practice and things I want to come back to, or little so-and-so achieving something for the first time. I must make sure I give them some proper praise about that. Not a passing well done, but maybe I need to find their parent at the end and have a proper conversation about something they've achieved. So yeah, just step back, watch, listen, see what you see and hear. It might surprise you. It also might make you more effective when you turn it up and dial it on again.
There's something else I'm hearing in this message. Correct me if I'm getting this wrong. But I'm hearing you say something about not necessarily getting swept up in the status quo. Yeah. So taking a notepad, making notes, staying quiet for a little bit longer, finding a different way to give some more rich praise perhaps to a player. A few weeks ago, I was at a coaching session and I took a camping chair, and you never believe the amount of square looks I got from people thinking, what's he doing? But I thought, if I sit down, it will change maybe what I'm projecting to the players. It gives me an opportunity to watch the practice or the game differently. And I could write some things down. Like I can lean forwards and do that. And it's really interesting, I think, that we do lots of things as coaches because that's what the expectation is. That's just what a coach does. But actually, it might not necessarily always be the right thing.
Completely. If you Google cartoon coach, I think the first image you get is of a coach with a clipboard, blowing a whistle really loud, like almost you're shouting at a group of kids. If that's what the Western world sees as coach, I think we might have a problem. Yeah, coaching is far more subtle, nuanced, quiet. There's a Quiet Leadership, Carlo Ancelotti's book, I think was well worth a look at. The idea that we don't have to be what society expects us to be. I think that's quite easy for you and I to say. I'm cautious around this because if my son picked up Tiddlywinks tomorrow and I end up coaching his Tiddlywinks team, I know nothing about it. I'd have to go and do my Tiddlywinks level 1. I'm not sure I'd have the confidence and the credibility to be able to do things different. So I suppose, if you're out there listening to this saying, that feels a bit uncomfortable, small steps first. Try something to begin with. You don't have to do the notes there and then. Do them at the end. You don't have, match day might be the time to sit on a chair, not training, and so on like that. But I think you and I are probably quite okay with breaking the rules because we've built up enough credit to do that. For others, I can see that being quite difficult.
Absolutely. And that's why I suppose in this part of the podcast as well, it's not necessarily about just copying and pasting the idea that you're sharing. It could be about tweaking it and making it appropriate for your context.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is have coaches get into bother with their head of coaching because they're sitting down on the side of the practice or breaking the rules. But think about how this type of message could work in your environment and your context in a way that's really helpful for you, but also the player.
Yeah, I mean, just so again, our shared background is mostly football, but just go and stand in the middle of the pitch during the match at the end, if that's what you're doing. Just go quiet, just observe, just look away from the ball. Well, the ball goes down that side, deliberately look the other way. What do you see? What do you notice? Like, you can be far more subtle than bringing the camping chair. Although, go for it if that's what you want to do.
Martin, thank you. What a great conversation. I've got 3 takeaways that I've written down in front of me. Changing the energy and the tempo in your practice, generating feedback by using some technology, and then stop, look, and listen. And all the joy that could come from that and how that could help the coaching better.
As always, you turn them into bite-sized nuggets really skillfully. Thank you.
Martin, thank you so much for being a guest on the Game Plan Coaching Podcast.
Thanks for having me. Been good fun.
Thanks for listening to the Game Plan Coaching Podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please follow the show and share it with a coach who might find it useful. I'd love to hear your feedback and any ideas for future guests. You can get in touch through the links in the show notes. Thanks again for listening, and go well in your next coaching session.